Look at this. My agent just searched GitHub, real repos, real data. I didn't write any browser code. I didn't use GitHub API. I just gave my agent one new tool called MCP and it figured out the rest. I'll show you exactly how, and I will build a second tool from scratch in 10 lines. Quick recap. In my last video, I built an AI coding agent in 20 lines using Claude Agent SDK and Google's Gemma 4. That agent could read files, edit code, run terminal commands, but it was stuck inside the folder. Today, I am going to give it new powers. Connect it to the things called the Model Context Protocol, MCP for short. And the moment you understand MCP, you can plug your agent into literally anything like GitHub, browsers, databases, your own custom tools. So let's go. So what is MCP? Think of it as USB-C for AI tools. Before USB-C, every device had its own port like mini USB, micro USB, the old iPhone connector. That was totally a mess. MCP does for AI agents what USB-C did for hardware. One protocol, any tool plugs into any agent. Anthropic released it as an open standard and the Claude Agent SDK supports it natively. With one config block, your agent can search GitHub, control a real browser, query a database, or run your own custom code. And the part that makes it powerful, you never change your agent. The agent code stays same, you just plug in the new tools and your agent figures out the rest. Two flavors today. First, an external MCP server for GitHub. Second, we build our own custom tool from scratch in 10 lines. So let's go. Okay, first of all, open this myagent.ts file and here we'll add another property, MCP servers. And within the object of MCP servers, we will add our first MCP server with the name GitHub. Properties required to configure. First one is command, that which command it will run to MCP servers. For that, I will just use Bunx because this is very fast. So that's why I prefer over npm or npx. Add args array. Within that, we will just pass the name of the MCP, that is Model Context Protocol / server -GitHub. Then we need a third property, that is env, and that will take an object property, and the property name is GitHub Personal Access Token, and we are accessing it from the .env file with the name gh_token. You can name it anything depending on what you have specified in your .env file. And for now, I'm going to remove the allowed tools property. Also, I don't need to specify current working directory. And also replace the accept edits with the bypass permissions so that it just continue doing what we will ask it to do. And in the max turns, I will replace from 5 to 3 just to reduce the cost. You can keep it up to 5 if you want to. And now you need to add the GitHub token in your .env file. Let me quickly grab the token. Let me show you how you can get it for yourself as well. For that, first of all, you need to go to the github.com and open your profile, and then from here go to the settings, go to the developer settings and click on the personal access token. I will use the tokens classic option, new token classic for general use, and here just give it a name. I will just name it test, and expiration I will just set to 7 days. I'm gonna select all of the options, but in real situation you should be really thoughtful and you should select only those permissions that you really gonna need for your agent. So I have selected all of the permissions and now I got the token. Just copy the token and go back to the .env file in your editor. First of all, I need to copy the name of the .env variable that I have to define here. So this is gh_token. Now let's copy it and paste it again. Okay, I just added the placeholder here. So I will replace this with my actual OpenRouter API key. So make sure you replace it with the actual value. Okay, I have added both GitHub token and OpenRouter API key. Now it should work well. So open your terminal and let's run this agent. For that, I will run the command bun/my, and after that, I will pass my prompt search for repositories owned by IRStack and list their names. So let's see if it works. Okay, so it has started to work. Notice something. So although in the my agent.ts file we have added our MCP tool, but this agent didn't use that tool at all. The gh command is available via bash tool. I can use gh repo. So you see that it is now trying to use the easiest option that it can use. It is desired results, and it was able to get the data because I was already authorized by using the GHCLI in my terminal. But this is not what we want. We wanted to use the MCP that we added. So for that, we have to be very specific in our prompt as well, so that it don't skip that part. So I will just clear it out and try it once more. And here this time I will mention MCP name and go back here and make sure to use MCP for this. So let's see if that works. Okay, now you will notice that this time it has started to use the right tool that we wanted it to use. It is using the GitHub MCP to search for the repositories, and it again got the correct list of the repositories that it should bring up. So that worked perfectly fine. Now let's move further towards our next demo about building a custom MCP tool. That MCP tool will be able to get current star counts for any GitHub repository that you will provide to it. So for that, I'm gonna replace all of this code with this code, and let me go through it one by one. First of all, this is a new thing that we imported, the tool and the create SDK MCP server. These are the new functions that we are now importing from this SDK. To create a server, we just call this function and we have to pass an object, and that object will have total these three properties passed. First one is name, version, and the array of tools. So for now, you can add as many tools as you want in one single MCP server, but for now we are going to add just one single tool, and every tool will be registered by passing the response of tool function call. In that function, we are passing these four arguments. First argument is the name of the tool that you are going to use. Second one is the description of the tool, and then we are passing this validation object where you will enforce the type rules, like we are going to expect only two inputs from user. First one is owner and second one is repo. The type of both properties will be string, and this is a description for every property. This is also just to help the AI agent so that the agent can know what every property is for, what is the purpose of every property. So this is for the GitHub username or organization, and this repo is for the repository name. And finally, we have the last handler function where you will have the actual logic of your tool. So whenever your agent will decide that it has to execute this tool, it will call this function, and all of the logic that you have written in this function will be executed. So for example, here I'm basically just fetching to this GitHub API endpoint. Here I am passing the owner and the repository by getting them from the arguments object, and here I'm preparing the headers that I must have to pass to the fetch function call. In this object, we are checking if GitHub token was provided through the environment variable file, then it will just utilize that GitHub token. So this is the same environment variable that we had added earlier for the previous demo. So I didn't remove that yet, so I can just reuse that one. So it will pick up that environment variable from there, from that .env file, and we just prepared our authorization header. Actual agent code here in the query function in the options object, there is just adding this additional property MCP server, and here you can register as many MCP servers as you want. So this, as currently we are using only one single MCP server, so I just added that name of my custom MCP server. Here we are just forbidding it from using these three tools so that it don't get distracted. And here I'm just enforcing it. The only tool that is allowed to be used by this agent is this one. So this is the tool that we just created here. This is how it constructs your tool name. So it adds a prefix of MCP double underscore with the name of your server. We added a suffix with a double underscore with the tool name that you have defined here, get underscore repo underscore stars. So make sure that this tool name matches and this server name also matches to what you have defined here. If you change anything, like if you change the name of the server or if you change the name of the tool, then remember you have to change this part as well. That's it. Now it's time to test it, and let's run this command again. And here I will specify my prompt in this way, stars 3. So it will understand the prompt and it will understand that now it has to use an MCP server that is made for just this purpose. So it will automatically pick up that tool and then it will run it. So as you see, again it chose the tool from our custom MCP server, and here is the response. And look at this. In the response, it is showing the correct number of the stars, that is 3,483 stars. So this is the same number that we saw here. So this was really useful. I want to tell you that if you want to register multiple MCP servers within your agent, you can do that as well. So you don't have to keep only one single MCP server per agent. You can register hundreds of MCP servers as well if you need in your agent. So right now we registered only one. Now let me register other MCP server that we added earlier before this demo. So within the same MCP servers object, I will add another property with the name. Okay, so now you see that we have total 2 MCP servers registered, my tools and the GitHub one. So this is the same MCP server that we registered before this demo. It will still work perfectly fine. Now I need to extend this array because earlier I had limited it to use one single tool, but now I want to allow it to use more tools as well because it might use GitHub MCP server as well. So for that I want to expose different tool. I will just paste it here. So this is the GitHub is the MCP server tool name that came with the GitHub MCP server. And this time I'm going to try something that it will now use both of these MCP servers altogether. So for that I will run the same command bun-/my-agent.ts, and in the prompt I will just say search Ayaztec repos for any keyword Claude in the name. For the top 3 results, get the current star count for each. So to meet the requirements about this prompt, it has to use both MCP servers, otherwise it will not work, because for searching it need the GitHub MCP server that I registered, and getting the star count it has to use the custom MCP server that I created. GitHub MCP server might already have the tool to get the total counts of the stars, but as we exposed only these 2 tools, so it will not be able to automatically use tool from GitHub just to get the star count. So it will be left only with this choice to get the star counts. So let's try it again and submit that and see what happens. So you see that now it is using the GitHub's MCP server to search for the top 3 repositories. And let me show you this. Got all of 3 repositories, and then as a second step, it now picked up the custom MCP tool that we created and ran every GitHub repo against that tool to get the total stars repo. And finally we got the reply here. Here it is saying that top 3 repositories for Ayaztec with Claude in the name and their current star counts are this. Obviously these are just demo projects, so that's why there were no stars, but if there were real repository, then it will give me the real data. So actually let's try a real one. It is working, and it was failed because it hit the maximum turns, because we had set maximum turns to 3. So that's why it was failed. It wanted to run some more API calls, but it hit the limit. Let me increase it from 3 to 6 and see what happens. We got the result, and this looks real. It got the total number of star counts through our custom MCP server. So this was really awesome, and now our agent became very powerful. We have 2 MCP servers in one MCP servers object. So, and this is the unlock. Your agent can reach into the world and run your custom logic with infinite tools. Alright, now there are 5 watchouts that you should be aware of. Watchout number 1. The permission mode accept edits. It only auto approves file edits, not MCP calls. For unattended agents, you have to use the bypass permission instead. Watchout number 2. Your agent will cheat. So if it can use bash and the GHCLI like it tried to do in our first demo, it will skip your MCP server entirely. So you have to block it by using the disallowed tools array like we did here. Told it not to use these specific tools. Then watchout number 3. I prefer to skip npx. You should use the Bunx everywhere because it is 100 times faster on startup and it auto installs by default. So you don't need to pass a -y flag as well. Bunx doesn't need it. Watchout number 4. You might have noticed that in our every example, it is showing the cost, and this cost is coming from the SDK. So the SDK's cost field lies. It reports $2 during my testing. But OpenRouter's dashboard shows you different calculations. So you see that we have been testing a lot during this video, but still the cost that we have spent so far is nothing. You see, this is $0.0643. So that is nothing. So that's mean you can run your Anthropic SDK agent in very low cost. So this is really useful. We are using Gemma 4 with the Anthropic SDK. You should always check the real number on OpenRouter if you want to stay aware of the actual cost. And watchout number 5 is MCP servers fail silently. If your agent never calls your tool, the server probably didn't register. So run the command manually to see the real error. Alright, that's it. 2 MCP models, external servers for big things like GitHub. In process, custom tools for everything specific to your workflow. Source code is provided in the description. This was the video 5 in my Claude code customization series. Claude.md, skills, hooks, build your own agent, and now MCP. All linked below. Subscribe for more AI development workflow. And one question for the comments. What MCP server would you connect first? Drop it below.